Hey, welcome to Frequelize This. This is John, and today we're going to be talking about Transatlantic, the absolute universe, and what in the world is the deal with these three different versions of the same album? What are the differences? And this was a question I really needed to answer. The album has been out for a while now. I've listened to the Ultimate Edition. I've listened to Forevermore, and I've saw the concert. And I just finished listening today to the live release from the Paris show. I love this material. I love Transatlantic, but this was a hard nut to crack. You can look up the backstory on why there are three versions, but we've got essentially a single disc, about an hour. We've got a two disc concept that's about 90 minutes, which was really the original way that they wrote and recorded it. And then there's even a kind of a blending of the two that comes in at about 100 minutes on the Blu-ray called the Ultimate Edition. That actually made it harder to want to dig into this. It almost took the fun out of just popping on a new album from a favorite band. It started to make the whole thing feel like work, kind of. So I haven't spent a tremendous amount of time with this material other than what I just described. So then I thought, I really need to be fair to this. It's been out for a while now. I should see if I can figure out what are the differences. Maybe I can settle on one that I like, and that'll be the go-to one then that I'm going to pull off of the shelf. And so the looked on the internet for someone who had done this kind of an analysis, and I couldn't find anything. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do it myself. So that's what we're doing here today. So you can see here, I just threw everything into CyberLink Power Director, which is my cheap, affordable video editing tool where we can visualize the audio here. And you can see that I've got three rows. So our top row is the Ultimate Edition. The second row is Forevermore, the two disc extended edition. And the bottom row is Breath of Life, the abridged one disc version, where you can see obvious gaps then. So we've got these obvious ones where literally entire tracks, so Bully and Rainbow in the Sky were left off of Breath of Life. And then over here, same thing, World Without It, I mean the World Without It, the world we used to know, and The Sun Comes Up Today. Also completely left off the Breath of Life, as is Lonesome Rebel. But then we've got abbreviations that are happening within songs. And then, of course, as you may have heard, some of the lyrics are different, singers are different, things like that. So let's just dig in a little bit here. Let's come on down to the overture. So the overture is obviously shorter on Breath of Life, but take a look at where these edits are. This is interesting. We've got a longer intro here of that fading up that's happening on the longer versions, whereas the overture just gets more into it quicker. This gap here from between these 2 points, on the longer editions, they actually sing the be long um, from the song of that title here in this section. We've got a few differences here where even the Forevermore overture is a little bit shorter than the Ultimate Edition's overture. Part of why I'm doing this is, can I settle on one version that I'm going to go grab off the shelf and listen to? But also, I'm looking at it from the perspective of it might be fun to make a playlist where I have the best versions of all the songs from all three editions of the album. So I am looking at it from a critical perspective, and I'm going to have to say I prefer the overture from Breath of Life. It is shorter, it's more typical of a Neil Morse overture, being that his are more like 4.5, 5 minutes instead of 9. And I like that it's all instrumental as well. It I don't like the Be Long being included in the extended overture for a couple of reasons. First of all, I really do like the instrumental nature of your typical Neil Morse overture. But then also, I not a huge fan of that sing-songy be long thing. So I really like the overture without it. Then we go into the second track, which is another departure between the editions. Breath of Life and the Ultimate Edition actually share the same version, and it's called Reaching for the Sky. Forevermore has Heart Like a Whirlwind. Heart Like a Whirlwind is a little bit shorter. You can see a couple of gaps here. And I think I prefer Reaching for the Sky. It's a better chorus, I think. It's more fun to sing. So far with tracks one and two, I'm actually preferring Breath of Life, the short version. But then we get to Higher in the Morning, Higher Than the Morning, and that's going to change here because it's not just because it's shorter. You can see there's some edits here. For Higher Than the Morning, I prefer the version that's on Forevermore or Ultimate Edition. And the main reason for that comes down to some of the choices that Neil made. So Neil was the one who championed for a shorter single disc, and Royna Stoltz, the guitar player, was the one who felt, and Mike Portnoy, felt strongly about the extended version. And so the two guys basically went into their corners and produced the albums that they would like to see released. And then ultimately they decided to release both. But in doing that, Neil left more space for atmosphere, I guess, and not quite as many layers. And the layers that would get cut in his version were Royna's guitars. So this is a great example of that. I'm going to isolate. I'm going to isolate Breath of Life here. Take a listen to this part. So you can hear that we've got some chill keys and we've got our rhythm section, and it's all kind of more chill and atmospheric. But then when we take a listen to that from the longer version, you can hear that Royna's doing a solo there over that. So for me, I do like that. I like what the guitar expressions that Royna does. Some people will say, well, it makes Transatlantic sound a little bit more like the Flower Kings, which is Royna's day job, I suppose. But for me, it's not so much about that. It's or maybe it's the inverse. It makes it sound less like a Neil Morse or a Neil Morse band album. So I actually like the additions that Royna provides, and so for me, I pick Higher Than the Morning from the extended or the ultimate. Then we go into Darkness and the Light. These tracks are the same length as you can see and are virtually identical, except for they have the same thing where the Forevermore and the Ultimate editions have some guitar work from Royna that had been dropped out of the mix on the shorter Breath of Life version down here. So again, I prefer either Forevermore or the Ultimate Editions version. Next, we come to uh, a case where we have two song titles. We have Take Now My Soul and Swing High, Swing Low. And they are different lyrics, but you can see by the waveform that musically they're pretty much the same structure, same song. I'll take the Ultimate Edition version here of Take Now My Soul. Also because that helps, it goes right into Bully and Rainbow Sky. And those two tracks are missing from Breath of Life, so if I do Take Now My Soul from Ultimate or Forevermore, I'll get these two tracks blended in nicely. Then we go to Looking for the Light, and you can see Looking for the Light is about the same length, and it is pretty much the same song. But on Forevermore and Ultimate, we're going to go into the world we used to know. And I like that track, so I'm going to choose the thread that's going here between either Forevermore or Ultimate. Then we get to The Sun Comes Up Today, and I like the shorter prelude you see here in the middle. This is from Forevermore, the two-disc version. It, I don't know, it's a prelude and it's foreshadowing the huge ending, big deal song at the end. For me, the shorter is better here, so I prefer the prelude from Forevermore. Then we go to Owl Howl. You can see here that this song has a couple of gaps on Breath of Life. So Breath of Life does have it, but it just has a shorter version of it. I believe it takes out the second verse. I think that right here we've got, yeah, we had a verse there that's cut from Breath of Life. And then here at the end, what's also cut from Breath of Life is a guitar solo. So because of that, I prefer the longer version of Owl Howl. Then we go to Solitude. I, and you can see I didn't really try to do a perfect sync right here because it's just obvious that Breath of Life is shorter. What they do here is this starts off with Pete singing it, and then Neil finishes it up. What happens here in this gap? So again, we have almost that prelude type of thing to Love Made a Way. And that's also what's going on here at the end of the track. So for me, it's a little bit too much Love Made a Way. I actually prefer the shorter version here because he still sings it. We still get it down here. This song's not that great. It's just not my favorite track. Then we get to Belong, and I keep wanting to call it Belong because that's how they sing it, kind of. And again, I'd leave this off of all of them. Not my favorite. It's okay. The only thing that actually kind of makes it good is that there are a couple of little instrumental bits in it that make it more interesting because I'm not a huge fan of just the repeating lyric. And Breath of Life removes some of that interesting instrumental stuff. So I don't like the Breath of Life version. I'll take the longer version of Be Long. Then we go into Lonesome Rebel. You can see not really a difference between Forevermore and Ultimate Edition, so just take your pick there. And then we get to Can You Feel It? And that's the same between Breath of Life and Ultimate Edition. This is an interesting one because this actually was left off of Forevermore, uh, but then picked up again for Ultimate Edition and blended in. So either one of those is going to work fine. Then we get to looking for the light reprise. And look at this interesting thing is that there's just one gap. Yeah, he's pulling out actually his own keyboard worker, I guess. So it's a keyboard solo, and he's just pulling out the first several bars of the keyboard solo to tighten things up. Then we get to the big ending, and this is weird. When you look at this, you're seeing large gaps. So the greatest story never ends is obviously shorter on Breath of Life, although some of this material that's over here at the beginning of Love Made a Way is kind of up here in the long version of The Greatest Story Never Ends on Ultimate Edition. So that explains that. But so then the question becomes, okay, what's missing here? And here's what's interesting, and this is the part where I didn't totally sync things up, is that the Breath of Life version has, if you will, has all of the exciting parts, I guess I would say, but it's missing this key bit right here. You can see this bit where the waveform comes down in volume. and that is this part. Neil likes to do these things. I think, at least in my group of friends, we commonly refer to this as the gentle giant nod or the gentle giant vocal bit. We call it that a lot. So that's on the two longer versions. Forevermore is missing some of the cool stuff that's going on in the longer version on Ultimate Edition. Let's just play a little bit of that. So like I say, just more solos, more instrumental parts. So because of that, I prefer the longest version of The Greatest Story Never Ends that you can get, and that's on the Ultimate Edition. So then we get to the big finish, and really the main thing to know here is there are different vocal takes for Neil on this between Breath of Life and Forevermore and Ultimate Edition. The Breath of Life version it kind of has a more passionate singing, I think, if you will, from Neil, or maybe you could say a more emotional vocal take of it from Neil. The other two versions are still excellent, excellent. Love Made a Way on Forevermore and Ultimate Edition. It's the big ending, and it's just great. No matter which version you pick, it's a great classic Morsian big ending. However, for me, because I'm picking the Greatest Story Never Ends from Ultimate Edition up here, then I'll take Love Made a Way from the Ultimate Edition here just so that I have a seamless flow for this playlist that I might make. So that being said, how did things score? Well, before we can answer that question, we should talk about the production and mixing. Each of the three versions has slightly different mixing and compression applied to them. Uh, could be backwards on this, but I think Breath of Life is slightly more compressed or quote unquote louder than Forevermore. And Ultimate Edition is definitely not near the same as those. So in fact, on uh, the examples I've been showing, I had to reduce Forevermore's volume by 1.6 decibels, and Breath of Life, the shortest one down here at the bottom, I had to reduce that by 2 decibels in order to get the sounds to be a little bit closer to what's going on in the Ultimate Edition. So that makes it a little bit harder to make a playlist where you've got tracks from all three. You're going back and forth between all three versions constantly. You'll get a little bit of a disruption in the loudness feel, uh, as well as maybe in the compression and mix if you're sensitive to that kind of thing. So because of that, I took a look, and really the edition I'm going to be wanting to listen to most of the time is the Ultimate Edition. Uh, there's really only two tracks where I definitely preferred Breath of Life, which is the abridged, and that's the overture to start things off, and then Solitude. I think it'd be fine to use the overture from Breath of Life, even if that one stands out a little bit as being a little louder or whatever. It's at the beginning, and then we could go into the Ultimate Edition from there. I do prefer the Forevermore version of the Love Made Away Prelude. Not enough to disrupt the experience, though. Um, so I think I would keep the Ultimate Edition flowing through that part. And probably I would do the same for Solitude as well, just to keep a consistent flow. So really, what it comes down to is I think I'll take the Ultimate Edition pretty much all the time, but I would just like to have the shorter overture to open that up. And so there you go. There we've gone through all of the differences we've got between the three versions of Transatlantic's The Absolute Universe. A lot of people have said just get one and go with it because it's great and you won't go wrong, and that is true. So this is more of a nerdy exercise for me because I just really wanted to try to wrap my head around this and figure out these differences because I was curious and also because I wanted to know which edition I'm going to grab most often. Thanks for joining me today. I'm not sure if this is the kind of thing I would do often, but this was a fun little exercise. It was a fun one-off. And anyway, if you appreciate what we do here at Frequalize This, please give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.